What's up, everyone? It's Caddy with Money Vesting, and this is unfortunately a situation which is escalating rather quickly. So I wanted to give you an update on what's going on with the BRICS nation, which are going to be Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There's been many other countries that have been flirting in joining this geopolitical alliance, and we've got countries like Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, many countries in Africa, and then also maybe even Mexico has been flirting in maybe joining this BRICS alliance moving forward. And really, the bottom line is that they are threatening the dominance of the US dollar. I've actually done a video on this before, so make sure that you do check that out, kind of understanding how international trade works. In this video, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on. They've got a new summit coming out in August. So later this year, there's going to be a new leaders summit, which also is going to potentially release the new currency that they are planning to launch, which is also going to put some impact on the international trade agreement. Also, just how things work internationally, because the US dollar is still the reserve currency of the world. So I'm going to break down this report and then also go over some other statistics that we need to learn about in terms of international trade. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, find it helpful. If you do, make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're just joining us for the first time, the link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. It's the first week of the month, usually the best time to join. And you'll get access to all the private videos, all the alerts, the trade ideas, everything's going to be included, so links down below. So this right here is the report that came out 30 minutes ago. So BRICS nation working on creating a new currency to be discussed at the next Leaders Summit. And the next Leaders Summit happens in August. And the transition, this was from a top Russian official. He says, and I quote, "The transition to settlements in national currencies is the first step. The next one is to provide the circulation of digital or any other form of fundamentally new currency in the nearest future." So first one is the creation. The second one is the circulation of this currency. And of course, I don't have to say it, but that is definitely most certainly going to threat the dominance of the US dollar. The BRICS countries are reportedly working on creating a new form of currency with a plan to present its development at the BRICS Leaders Summit in August. And again, the transition to settlements and national currencies is the first step. The next one is to provide the circulation. And I think that at the BRICS Leaders Summit, the readiness to realize this project will be announced. Such works are underway. So again, the BRICS nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and several other countries have expressed interest in joining the economic bloc, including countries like Argentina, Iran, Indonesia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. And the interesting thing is that Saudi Arabia and Iran don't really get along. I mean, they've had issues for many decades, and China is actually the one that is driving this peace agreement and kind of encouraging these countries to join this economic bloc. And the thing is that a lot of these countries are actually very good in producing some of the largest traded commodities in the world. Iran, Saudi Arabia is going to be oil. China itself is actually really good at producing a lot of the commodities, which I'm going to go over in just a minute. But we also learned that Putin and Xi Jinping also agreed and met with each other earlier last month to adopt the Chinese yuan as a settlement currency with emerging economies. The Chinese government has also signed a bilateral deal with Brazil to facilitate trades using their national currencies. Bavkov, who's again the top Russian official, left the open possibility of a unified currency arising within BRICS, potentially backed by gold as well as other commodities such as rare earth elements or land. So the idea would be for this new currency to be backed by something, right? Something that what we saw back in the gold standard from the 1930s and 1970s, which of course we are no longer part of as we are in this fiat currency system. At the India-Russia Business Forum on Thursday, Bavkov emphasized that India-Russia should institute a new economic association with a new shared currency, but noted that China could play a crucial role in developing a common currency for three nations. So again, China is going to be involved, and New Delhi, Beijing, and Moscow are the nations that now institute a multipolar world that is endorsed by the majority of government. It is a composition should be based on inducting new monetary ties established on a strategy that does not defend the US dollar or the euro, pretty much mentioned that, but rather forms a new currency component competent of benefiting our shared objectives. So, and last but not least, the Russian officials also expressed satisfaction with his country's economic situation while criticizing U.S. President Joe Biden and European Union. He argued that dollar and euro serve the interests of Washington and London rather than the broader global community, emphasizing that they do not recognize Russia, India, and China as equal counterparts. So I don't want to get too political in this video. I never want to, but this is definitely a situation which is escalating day by day. And we're going to find out again in August when the new leader summit happens, what is going to be the end goal, what actually ends up happening with this new currency, and what type of threat this is going to be for the US dollar as a reserve currency, right? Because right now it's the dominant currency on a more international scale. These are the most traded commodities in the world. And the reason why this is so important is because at the end of the day, what are countries really trading, right? They're trading commodities because they all specialize in one thing or another. And they trade things so that we can have, like, the consumers get the benefit of accessing all the products and services around us at a far reasonable cost. So they are able to trade all these commodities with each other. That's how global trade works. And these are the top 10 most traded commodities in the world. Of course, the first few are going to be oil. So Brent oil, crude oil. We've also got steel. We've got soybeans. We've got iron, corn, gold, copper, aluminum, and silver. So some of the more rare earth materials, some of the other commodities that are super important, some agricultural things like soybean, corn, wheat, like those are really important things as well. So let's just really dive into, right? I mean, what's going to be the end goal here? I mean, when it comes to crude oil, right? United States is one of the biggest oil producing nations, but it's also one of the biggest consumers in the world. So on a net basis, they pretty much consume everything that they produce and more from international markets in order to just go by, right? From a day-to-day operation standpoint, the United States does consume a lot of oil, but it also does produce a lot. So next two on the list, Saudi Arabia and Russia. Saudi Arabia is also flirting with potentially joining the BRICS. And of course, we've heard that there's been some peace agreements between Saudi Arabia, Iran, and China. China's being the facilitator there, and Russia is already part of the BRICS economic bloc. And if they are going to be providing all this oil, all this natural gas, and all these commodities in Chinese yuan, all the settlements happening in Chinese yuan, that is going to be a problem in itself. We also heard that Saudi Arabia, I think, completed its first LNG transaction. So you can come down and see over here, for the first time, China just bought liquefied natural gas from the UAE. So this is UAE. I'm pretty sure it was Saudi Arabia, but using yuan. Kind of shocking news that should really be on the front page of CNN and BBC. Kenya's president announced that Saudi Arabia and UAE will sell oil for Kenya shilling, and Ghana is buying oil in gold. So I mean, there's just, every country seems to be doing a lot of things on their own. So that's oil for you. This is going to be soybean. Soybean was also number one, or one of the actual most traded commodities in the world. And you've got Brazil topping the list in terms of largest producer of soybeans in the world, followed by the United States and Argentina. And Brazil, once again, part of the BRICS, right? Argentina flirting with the BRICS on becoming part of the economic bloc as well. And if they start kind of having that bilateral agreement with China to do these settlements in yuan, well, guess what? Yuan's demand is going to start to increase. The dollar demand is going to start to decrease. This right here is going to be corn. United States, once again, one of the world's largest producer and exporters of corn. And the next two, China and Brazil, right? So next to, we've got another, Brazil actually makes a lot of stuff. I didn't know that. I learned that. Quite interesting that they actually do make a lot of crops, including coffee, sugar, soybeans, corn, a lot of things. And China, again, being the second largest producer of corn. This right here is going to be wheat. China is the world's largest wheat producer and has yielded more than 2.4 billion tons of wheat in the last 20 years. They're also one of the biggest importers of wheat as well. This right here is going to be, I believe, steel. Could be wrong. I don't have gold right here. Gold. China is the largest gold producer in the world, along with India. India is the second, I believe it's the second largest gold producer in the world as well. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure India is very much involved when it comes to gold production and also export and import of gold. Gold is pretty popular. And guess what? India supposedly is also part of this economic bloc. Steel. Top 5 steel producing countries worldwide. China remains the global leader in crude steel production. Steel ended up being the second most traded commodity in the world. And that's followed by India, Japan, the US, and Russia. So we got India already part of the BRICS. Russia already part of the BRICS, and the U.S., of course, being the top 5 producers of steel, which is going to have to deal with, the fact that there's going to be another economic bloc here. Chile, when it comes to copper, Chile is a top copper producer in the world. Not really sure where Chile stands on this BRICS organization, but let's just talk a little bit about the markets now, right? And this is actually a quite interesting report as well, which goes over a lot of different things. I'm going to share that with all the members in our Discord if you're interested in kind of reading it. But when it comes to the market, I think the way it impacts the market is very simple. The dollar reserves are at a vulnerable position, right? If they start to go down among countries because of their central banks not needing to hold a lot of dollar-denominated debt or reserves, because a lot of the international trade is now happening either in their own currencies or this supposedly new currency, then dollar-denominated debt is going to get sold off. What happens in that scenario is countries that actually have bonds, US dollar-denominated bonds, will start to offload them because they don't really need it anymore. And as they do, the supply increases, which reduces the price, thereby increasing the yields, right? Increasing the interest rate, increasing the yields. And as interest rates go up, we know what happens to equities, right? Equities start to also drop because interest rates go up, yields skyrocket. And as the 10-year yield goes up, 20 or 30-year goes up, that obviously puts a lot of pressure and an impact on the equities, right? On tech sector, on equities in general. Now, again, this is going to take a long time to actually play out. This is not going to be like, hey, this news comes out and everything gets start trading in, other currencies and we see the equity markets drop. No, it's going to take some time, actually a long time to actually play through the system. And it's going to be quite interesting to see the developments of what actually ends up happening through the course of over the next 7 to 10 years.
Catch that. Could you try it?
That's my Siri. I don't know what happened. But yeah, the bottom line is I think we have to really be cautious with what's going on with the BRICS nation. And let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But this is certainly a situation that needs to be paid attention to because it is escalating pretty rather quickly. And at the same time, it is going to affect the US dollar strength and its dominance on a more global basis. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful. If you did, make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're just joining us for the first time. Link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. As always, happy investing, and I'll see you all in the next video.